Hello and welcome to this video, which is not a budget with me, but instead a video about how I use the UK digital bank Monzo to manage and analyse my spending. With apologies to those of you not in the UK, but I'm sure you must have digital alternatives wherever you are, and hopefully this video will be of some use. So a bit of background to my own situation. I was with a UK building society for many years, and for those in America or another country where you don't have building societies, broadly speaking, banks are generally listed on stock exchanges and are accountable to stockholders, but building societies are completely owned by their members, each of whom has a vote in various matters. They are often more ethical than banks, and that was true of the building society that I was with. However, it was getting a bit outdated for me. I wasn't really into the interface, the app, and so on. And on a whim, I ended up downloading Monzo and trying it out. I was so impressed with how easy it was to set up the account and with the interface, etc., that I set up my switch shortly after. I used the free current account switch service, which was seamless for me personally, and I've linked to some more information about that below. That for me included payees, standing orders, direct debits, and my wages, and in fact there was a payment that was accidentally sent to my old bank account about 2 months after I switched, so about 2 months after the old one was closed down, and it still ended up in my new account, so I was very impressed with that. This bit here is for those of you, like me, interested in ethical banking. If you're not too fussed, feel free to move on to the next section. But I've dropped a couple of links below about ethical banking more broadly, as well as Monzo's own statement on its practices. Now, Monzo consistently appears in the kind of top, however many, most ethical banks lists, but it is still a bank after all, and there are criticisms of it. I've listed some of its features here, but there is a lot more information via the links below, if that is something that's important to you. There are, of course, some excellent reasons not to use Monzo. It won't be for everyone, and it really depends on your own needs and preferences. Monzo is digital, so there are no branches for you to visit or paying cash into the account. You can pay in cheques by taking a photo and submitting it. I believe that there are somehow options to pay in by cash. I've just simply never had the need to do it. You might like a more traditional setup, and you might not like the kind of modern format with the app, etc. And then, like me, you may absolutely flipping hate that trademark hot coral pink debit card. I actually wangled a blue one via a previous incarnation of one of their paid plans, and I'm going to stick with it until the bitter end before I have to trade it in for one of those pink ones. Speaking of paid plans, let's just talk quickly about the free or the paid plans with Monzo. So it's free to bank with Monzo and save as well. Like most, if not all banks, you can choose to have a paid account. When I talk about the features that I use in this video, I will let you know if each is available with a free account or via a paid plan. Personally, I pay £3 a month for my account with Monzo. I find the tools really useful, and I make at least triple that per month in interest on my savings anyway, so I don't mind paying. But below I have linked to a full and extremely comprehensive guide to each of the different plans. First of all, I'm going to talk about the main dashboard in Monzo and how it displays payments. So I've covered up my balance and sort code and account number and so on, as well as the list of merchants under activity, but they would normally appear there. What I like about Monzo is that it shows upcoming payments too, whether incoming or outgoing. So you may already know that where an incoming payment is queued, with Monzo you can cash it in at 4 PM the working day before it's due to hit your account. People generally use that for wages. It's particularly fabulous if you're due to get paid on a Monday and you can cash it in at 4 PM on Friday. But it also works for other things. So for example, this payment on the screenshot here is for an incoming pet insurance payout, which is also inviting me to kind of cash in a day early. I really like that Monzo tells you what's coming in the next 2 to 3 days, particularly around bill time. This can be useful if a direct debit's for a variable amount, for example. The Trends tab will calculate how much you have left to spend based on your current balance and any upcoming transactions, which is pretty nifty, but obviously doesn't take into account payments that are much later in the month. Now, I'm really not a notification person, and 90% of my app notifications are turned off on my phone because I find it just less distracting and a bit less stressful. However, I do find, personally, all of Monzo's notifications to be useful. There are instant spending notifications, like you can see demonstrated here, daily summaries that let you know how much you've spent so far that day, weekly summaries, overdraft warnings, and various other insights. For example, if a direct debit amount has changed for the first time in a long time, or if you're spending less in a certain category than usual, that kind of thing. If you prefer not to be kept quite so up to date, you can toggle the various notifications off. So I really enjoy using categories in Monzo. The categories feed into your spending analysis, which I'll show next. And you can set targets per category as well as exclude some categories from any analysis. I also use custom categories because it's a feature included with my £3 a month account, but the default list, which you can see on the screen here, is pretty comprehensive. Monzo will automatically apply a category from the default list for every transaction on your account. It'll take its best guess. You can choose your own if you think if it's got it wrong for you. You can either amend them all in the future from then on, future and past, or just decide per transaction. Once you're tracking categories sensibly or in a way that works for you, the Trends tab will show you running totals, as you can see here. I've blurred out the totals, which would usually be on the right, and you can specify a date range as well if that works for you. So, money pots, for me, was one of the main draws of Monzo. They're free to use. It's basically a digital envelope method. You open a pot up, you give it a name, fun little icon, and then you set a goal. If you don't have to, but you can set a goal. You can lock the pot until a certain date if you want to. You can make payments to and from the pot. You can have it round up to the pound and put spare change into a pot, and I do that with the Christmas fund. You can also set up a savings pot. The standard interest rate is 4.10% AER variable for the basic accounts, or 4.60% on the two most expensive plans. What I like the most about the pots is that the money is separated from the current balance shown on your main dashboard. It enables me to ignore that money. It doesn't encourage me to think that it's available for me to spend. It's not, because it's in these pots, which is these sort of digital envelopes. I've blurred it out on the screen here, but it would show the totals for your pots as well in the list. So the Trends tab has a few different tools that you can use. I tend not to make great use of them, and I'll go into the reasons why shortly, but if you sensibly categorize your transaction in a way that works for you, it makes this tool all the more useful. So as well as tracking spending per category, as you've already seen, you can also get balance and or spending summaries. Here, rather depressingly, is in graphical format what a paycheck to paycheck cycle looks like when you track the balance monthly. If you're not a full-on spreadsheet person like me, this is a handy tool that you can customize a little. I am a spreadsheet person, and I'll go into that in a second. So Monzo offers cashback within the app. The offers are updated frequently. They vary significantly in terms of the merchants, the rates they offer, whether it's single or multiple use, etc. You do have to sort of manually add the offers to get the cashback. So if you don't check and add them regularly like I do, I usually check in a couple of times a week to see what's there. Just add them all at once, maybe once a week or so, because there's no penalty for not using an offer. I add any cashback that I earn into my Christmas pot along with my spare change. If you are at all bothered about credit scores, such as they are, the £3 and up paid plans with Monzo include Credit Insights. It shows scores from Equifax and TransUnion, which update weekly. It will also include insights on what the scores mean and how they're impacted, whether positively or negatively. And I've dropped what I found to be a really useful link below regarding credit scores in the UK. It can be a bit of a dark art, I think, and it's good to understand how it works. Something included in paid plans that I've only recently started making use of is virtual debit cards that are linked to your account. So you can set up a virtual card. You can see one that I set up here for a free trial, which you can use to make payments. So you can set an expiry date on the card itself, and it's useful, as I have done, for signing up for free trials if you don't trust that you'll remember to cancel it. I always do remember to cancel things, because the first thing that I do when I'm signing up for a free trial is I ask Siri to remind me on a certain date to cancel that trial. So it's super useful for that. Whether it's more secure, I've got no idea. Perhaps for merchants that you're a bit suspicious of, in which case you probably shouldn't be buying from them anyway. If you're doing it for that purpose, please research it, because I haven't a clue. So earlier I mentioned in-app insights if you're not a spreadsheet person, but if, like me, you are a spreadsheet person and you love a good pivot chart, the paid plans include an auto-export to Google Sheets, like an old-school bank statement with all of the details. It also includes Monzo's categories so that you can add that to your own analysis, and I do. Personally, I'm using one to produce the little spending summary in my monthly Budget With Me videos. So as I've mentioned, I have the Monzo Extra paid plan. It's £3 a month, but I wanted to quickly cover the Perks and Max plans too. Each of them comes with all the features of the previous plan, and then adds more on. So in terms of the Perks plan, if you're eligible for a rail card in the UK and you use trains a lot, if you have savings and you would benefit from the higher interest rate, and you're a lover of Greggs, then the Perks plan would probably make sense for you. If you'd like all of the above, as well as travel and phone insurance and breakdown cover, then the Max plan is probably a good shout for you. Personally, I'm not entitled to any rail cards, and I love Greggs, but not that much, so I'm going to stick with my extra plan at £3 per month. So there's more to Monzo that I haven't covered here, and I just wanted to briefly touch on some of the stuff that I haven't talked about. You can invest with Monzo. There are helpful bite-sized educational videos that talk you through investing more generally and how it works in Monzo. I'm not in a financial position to do this yet, but I hope to start investing after I am debt-free. You can add other accounts to your Monzo dashboard, for example, your credit cards, or maybe savings accounts elsewhere, or a mortgage, for example. You can add notes and tags to transactions and also upload receipts per transaction too. Monzo Labs, a cool little tool that reminds me quite a bit of Google Labs, if you're old enough to remember that. Available via settings, has cool features that are still being tested. So, for example, you can block spending with a particular merchant, or you can have it suggest tags for transactions. So there you go, that was a whistle-stop tour of how I use Monzo to manage and analyse my spending. It won't be for everyone. I touched on that briefly at the beginning of this video, and there are some good reasons not to use Monzo. It's really all about personal preference and the functionality that works for you. Personally, I feel more connected to and in control of my money using Monzo, and it's been a really positive change for me. If you decide that you'd like to try Monzo, please consider using my referral link, which will be displayed in a prominent position in the description below. If you sign up and start using your account, then we both get £5. So I hope that was useful. If you have any questions or you think there's something I haven't covered, please feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to know what you like the most about your bank. Are there any perks or tools it provides that help you with your finances? Do you think that you would ever consider switching? If not, what could persuade you to switch? So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you at the end of the month for the July budget with me.